Around with masks. You're sure of it because people are listening really closely to this. Right now, people should not be walking. There's no reason to be walking around with a mask. When you're in the middle of an outbreak, wearing a mask might make people feel a little bit better, and it might even block a droplet, but it's not providing the perfect protection that people think that it is. And often there are unintended consequences. People keep...
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the John DeVito Show. It is Monday morning. What happened to the weekend? Oh, my God. Did the weekends just fly by, or is it just me? I can't believe it's Monday morning. I've been working crazy hard all morning, and I actually wasn't going to do a podcast today. I had a lot of work to do, but I'm going to take a brief, 45 minutes to an hour and just talk about this because I popped onto the news and I saw the story about Dr. Fauci, my good friend, Dr. Fauci. And he had two different stories that were out this weekend. So we're going to get to talking about those in a second. But just to kind of summarize, one of the stories about Dr. Fauci is he came out and said, good news for everybody. It's time to maybe start getting a little bit more liberal with the mask policies inside as more and more people become vaccinated. And I've got to say, from the people I talk to, from the places I'm going, people are done. They are done with the mask policies. They are done. They don't want to be wearing the masks any longer, and they are ready to move on. But then I read the other story, and I will read this entire story in a little bit. Fauci goes in to talk about how we may be seeing masks in our future for the next several years, where he talks about, how the masks completely eliminated the flu this year, and we could see those every year now to help mitigate the flu from our society. I'm telling you right now, no, no, that's where it stands with me. Dr. Fauci, I've got this for you. No, it's not going to happen with this guy. I'm at the end of my rope, and I am not going to be wrapped in the same bubble wrap that society has wanted children for the last 15 years to be wrapped in. I am not going to allow society to wrap me up in bubble wrap and protect me against myself from this point going on. So I'm going to get into all this in a little bit. So believe me, I'm ready to rant, and I'm going to throw that at everybody in a little bit. So, Eric, I hope you had a good weekend. Hopefully everything went well. I see you in the chat. And I just want to chat a little bit about my weekend first and kind of, set things up on a on a nicer, feel before I get into ranting about what I'm seeing with the mask policies from our good friend, Dr. Fauci. So anyway, good weekend here for the DeVitos. We, again, busy as every weekend. We had 2 baseball games on Saturday, 2 baseball games on Sunday. And it was great. I mean, my oldest son team, the U14 team, Ethan, he plays for the Strike Zone in Worcester, Massachusetts. And on Saturday, it was funny. They played a doubleheader. In the first game, he had a great game. He got up 3 times, got 3 nice hits. We play our home games at a college field, and Ethan one-hopped the fence in left field at this college field and really hit a blast. It was a double. If he'd actually pulled it right down the left field line, it would have been over the fence, but he hit it more to like left center field. So anyway, he had a great game, got 3 hits in that first game. And in the second game, the kid batting before him hit an absolute bomb to left field, a 3-run home run over the fence in left field, absolutely crushed it. And Ethan came up next. First pitch, the kid hits him. So that was obviously a purpose pitch. And the next time Ethan came up, he got hit again. So he literally got hit twice in the second game. And then in that second game, he flew out to center field a couple of times. But I was happy for him. He had a good first game, and his Strike Zone team, after having a couple of weekends where they didn't play well, played really well and won both divisional games on Saturday, which was kind of nice. So then you fast forward to Sunday, and my son Brandon, my youngest, had 2 games, and they played this team, and their team wasn't playing particularly well. They lost the first game, but man, my son, he had probably one of the roughest days in his life as a baseball player. In the first game, and then going into the second game, he was 0 for 5 with 5 strikeouts. He struck out every time he got to the plate. And finally, in that second game, he came up in kind of a big situation later in the game, and you could tell he was angry. He actually absolutely ripped a double to straightaway center field and just hit a rocket right into center field for a double. Thank God, because it would have been a really long ride home if he had been like 0 for 6 with 6 strikeouts. But during that game, it was kind of scary. One of the kids on his team had a big lead from second base, and he was trying to get back on a pickoff move to second base when the pitcher went to throw it to second base, hit the kid right in the face, hit him right in the eye, and it really closed up his eye, and it looked pretty nasty, after the game, but it looks like he's going to be okay. But that was pretty scary when you see a kid get hit in the face with a baseball like that. It really was just kind of a scary moment. But, for us, good weekend. I hopefully everyone had a great Mother's Day weekend. My Mother's Day weekend, was busy. And honestly, we didn't get to see my wife too much yesterday. She actually chose to stay home yesterday, and she had to bring my other two kids to work, but she got some private time for herself, which was kind of good. So I think that she enjoyed that and enjoyed just kind of being alone and having some private time for herself, which was good. So anyway, yeah, good weekend. I mean, the weather wasn't bad. It's a little cold and rainy today, but it looks like for the rest of the week, it's going to be, I think, kind of a nice day, a nice week, nice weather. We're going to be up, I think, in the 70s by midweek, which will be really nice. And we are pretty excited. All of you know that the DeVito family is a big baseball family. So the AAA Red Sox affiliate, the Worcester Red Sox, recently moved the Red Sox, the AAA affiliate, moved to Worcester, Massachusetts. So they opened a new field, Polar Park. And the reason why they call it that is Polar Beverages is based in Worcester, Massachusetts, a pretty big soda company. So they call it Polar Park. And we actually have tickets for this Thursday. So I'm going to be going to the game with a few of my kids on Thursday. And then we get 2 more games next week, where we're going to go out and see the AAA Red Sox play in Worcester in the new stadium. So we're pretty excited about that. So, yeah, the DeVito family, big baseball family, and we're very excited about what's, some baseball this upcoming week. So let me play. I started the show by playing that clip from Dr. Fauci. Now, we're going to get into the meat of the show and talk about what I wanted to talk about from the beginning. Because like I said, I really was not going to do a show today. I had too much work to do. But when I saw this story, it really pissed me off. Now, this clip that I'm going to play is a clip from Dr. Fauci as the pandemic of COVID-19 was beginning. So bear with me. Let me cue this up and get it ready. And here we go. It should play in a second.
Riding around with masks. You're sure of it because people are listening really closely to this. And right now, people should not be walking. There's no reason to be walking around with a mask. When you're in the middle of an outbreak, wearing a mask might make people feel a little bit better, and it might even block a droplet, but it's not providing the perfect protection that people think that it is. And often there are unintended consequences. People keep
Okay, let me play that one more time. Here we go again. One more time.
Riding around with masks. You're sure of it because people are listening really closely to this. And right now, people should not be walking. There's no reason to be walking around with a mask. When you're in the middle of an outbreak, wearing a mask might make people feel a little bit better, and it might even block a droplet, but it's not providing the perfect protection that people think that it is. And often there are unintended consequences. People keep fighting.
All right, so there it is. There's the clip from Dr. Fauci back as the pandemic began. Okay, so as COVID-19 was ramping up, people asked him about the use of masks. Will it actually protect people? And you could clearly hear in his answer that basically wearing masks are not going to help, and they are also the only purpose they're going to serve is to make people feel better and basically just to be polite to other people. Now, for me, that drives me crazy because, again, if wearing a mask was actually going to help people survive, if it was going to prevent people from getting the disease, I get it. I understand that we're out here looking to protect everybody. Everybody needs to wear masks. They initially told us we'd be wearing masks for maybe like 3 weeks or a month. It's now been over a year. It's been over a year. And they keep saying that. And one of the things that drives me crazy now, there were 2 stories that came out this weekend. One of the stories was Dr. Fauci coming out and saying that it's time to get a little bit more liberal in the mask policy. He was saying that cases are going down. They have to continue to go down, but maybe it's time that we start getting a little bit more liberal and start thinking about maybe, stopping some of the mask use indoors. So, that was one of the stories. And I read that. I'm like, all right, well, that makes sense. But then when I read the second story, and I'm going to read it out loud. So let me read this to you. Okay, now the title of the story, this is from the Washington Post. Fauci says wearing masks could become seasonal following the pandemic. And this is what scares me. So bear with me. as I read this, it's important to listen to because people in America, we need to wake up, or this is going to become the norm for all of us every year. It's going to happen. The wheels are in motion. It's going to happen. All right. So here it is. Anthony Fauci, the nation's leading infectious disease expert, said Sunday that people may decide to wear masks seasonally after the coronavirus pandemic to help avoiding spreading of contra. Hold on one sec. Phone. We'll send that to voicemail, so I just shut that up. All right, so here we go. Nothing like a professional podcast with cell phone calls coming in the middle. So anyway, so they're saying that people could be wearing the masks seasonally to protect from the flu after this year. In an interview on NBC's Meet the Press, the chief medical advisor to the White House pointed out that the public has grown accustomed to wearing the masks and added that the quantifiable data shows that its use has helped stem the spread of other viruses. So they're laying the groundwork. They have conditioned us. We're all wearing the masks. And now they're saying, well, it's shown that it stopped the flu. It stopped other things. This could become seasonal. And let's face it, there are people out there right now that do not want to stop wearing their masks. This has become their identity. This is something that separates them from other people. It makes them feel like they are part of something that is benefiting all of society. And there are people out there that I'm telling you right now that even when the CDC says you don't have to wear masks indoors anymore, they're still going to be wearing the mask. They do not want to let them go. All right. So here we go further with the story. We had practically a non-existent flu season this year, merely because people were doing the kind of public health things that were directed predominantly against COVID-19. So that's good. The mask stopped the flu, but they couldn't stop COVID-19. So I'm not sure how that adds up, but we'll get back to that. So Fauci adds that it's conceivable that during seasonal periods where respiratory-borne viruses such as the flu are prevalent, people might decide in the next year or two to wear masks to diminish the possibility of either spreading or catching these diseases. Common viruses such as influenza have virtually disappeared this year. We'll get to that. Partly because of the coronavirus restrictions, including masks, and a sharp decline of flu infections during this year's season have led to only one registered pediatric death compared with dozens in past years. Centers for Control Disease and Prevention data shows. So we're going to go on a little bit further. I know it's long. Bear with me, but it is important, I think, for all of us. So here we go. Fauci's remarks came about 2 weeks after federal health officials said fully vaccinated people can go without masks outdoors when walking, jogging, biking, or dining at outdoor restaurants. The CDC continued to recommend masking in crowded outdoor settings and venues such as stadiums and concerts where it was difficult to maintain social distance and where many unvaccinated people could be present. This announcement brought a sense of relief to pandemic-weary Americans after more than a year of shutdown measures and mandatory use of masks. But even before the CDC announcement Monday, such states such as Kentucky, etc., Mississippi, Texas, have begun easing restrictions. And that's Florida as well. So anyway, there we are. All right. So let me rant for a little bit right now, okay? Eric Kirk, okay, I'm back to the screen. I was reading off another screen. So whatever happened to herd immunity, welcome to everybody that's coming in. Please share my podcast. I really appreciate it. But I'm going to talk a little bit about this whole mask mandate. So there's a bunch more people in here right now. So I'm sorry to be repetitive, but let me play this one more time. This is Dr. Fauci before the pandemic. Okay, here we go. And it's pretty loud, so hang in there.
Fighting around with masks. You're sure of it because people are listening really closely to this. And right now, people should not be walking. There's no reason to be walking around with a mask. When you're in the middle of an outbreak, wearing a mask might make people feel a little bit better, and it might even block a droplet, but it's not providing the perfect protection that people think that it is. And often, there are unintended consequences. People keep fighting.
Okay, there he is. There's the man. There's Dr. Anthony Fauci. Okay, we've played it a couple of times now. There is the man that told us point blank before the coronavirus started that masks will not help. They do not help. Okay, he says point blank in the middle of a pandemic, they are useless. They are going to be used to make people feel better, as he said. So for all of you, I don't know how all of you feel. For the people in the live chat right now, for the people that are going to listen and download, are you willing to trade your freedom to make other people feel better? Is that what this country is about? Are we all going to trade our freedom to make people feel better? That is what Dr. Anthony Fauci wants us to do. That is what the left wants us to do. They want us to trade our freedom to simply make people feel better. Dr. Fauci said point blank, masks don't help. They don't stop the virus. But of course, then in the same breath, he's saying, well, because of the mask, we completely eliminated influenza this year. Explain to me how that worked. Explain to me how the masks eliminated the flu, but they couldn't stop COVID-19. Both are passed through droplets, and both are passed through touch. So how did we eliminate the flu completely? For the first time in the history of this country, we eliminated the flu. We don't have the flu anymore. We cured it. It's gone, right? So that's all because of the masks. But COVID-19 has killed how many people this year? And even though we were all wearing masks, we had giant spikes in cases, and it did nothing to stop that. What I'm saying is the flu numbers were absorbed into the COVID numbers. There is no doubt in my mind. We did not cure the flu this year. What a lot of people had this year was a very severe case of the flu. That's what happened. The flu numbers were absorbed into the COVID numbers, and that's what happened to the flu. The masks did not stop it. The masks did not stop it. We've been doing this for over a year now, where people are wearing masks. We're being forced to wear these face diapers everywhere we go. They are punishing children. The children are dealing with mental health issues because they're being forced to wear these masks every day in school. They're being forced to wear them at summer camp. They're being forced to wear them while they're playing sports. It is the most disgusting display of the government using power over its people than I have ever seen in my 53 years on this planet. It is disgusting. So now you've got Dr. Fauci, the man that said, hey, these masks don't help. They don't stop anything. They don't work. You don't need them. They make people feel better. So now you're saying that the use of masks is going to continue on year after year after year because the masks have shown that the seasonal flu was cured by wearing a mask. Didn't do shit to stop coronavirus, but it cured the flu. So we found the cure. Wear a mask. So I'm sure a lot of you out there are saying, screw that. I'm not going to wear a mask. That's all. I'm not going to wear a mask. I will not do it. 2 years from now, if they're saying it's mandatory to wear a mask to stop the seasonal flu, we're not going to do it. Well, we'll see. Now, if they say that kids have to go to school wearing a mask 2 years from now because it stops the flu, and they have to wear one from, say, October through April, are you going to pull your kids out of school? Are you going to send them to private school? Are you going to homeschool them? Or in fact, are they going to go to school for the rest of their lives wearing masks? If stores, again, come out with, if the CDC recommends masks, are all stores going to have masks on again, require you to wear a mask going into the store? If you have a job where you have to travel and go on an airplane, are the airplanes going to require masks? So I'm telling you right now, America, for those of you that listen to my show, for those of you that download this show, it is time that we start standing up for ourselves, because if we don't, we are going to lose our freedom. That's what this is about right now. This is about America losing its freedom. And right now they are laying the groundwork to let you know that masks is going to be the new normal. Remember that phrase when the pandemic started? We heard that phrase all the time in the beginning of the pandemic. This is the new normal. This is the new normal. They were conditioning us every 2 seconds, the new normal. That phrase kind of drifted away a little bit because I think it was pissing people off. But think about it. They were saying it at the very beginning. They were telling us from the very beginning, we will never go back to the old normal. The old normal is history. It's gone. From this point on, you're going to wear a fucking mask when we tell you to wear a fucking mask. When we tell you to jump, you're going to ask us how high you want us to jump. They are telling us that the new normal is gone. It is gone. And here you go. They're laying the groundwork. They're putting it in writing. Dr. Fauci is letting you know, well, COVID-19 may be over, but those masks aren't going away. They're going to be here for the future. They're going to be here during flu season. They're going to be here the next time the bird flu pops up or whatever it is. These masks are not going away because they've conditioned us. They've made us feel that it's a necessity in life. And, I don't even know what to say. I mean, I grew up in the 70s. I grew up in the 80s. I grew up in the 90s. I was born in 1968. So I was 10 years old in 78, 20 years old in 88. I mean, those were the times in which I grew up, man. And I got to say, the government and the media and everything that's going on in this country is really turning the American public into a bunch of pussies. And I'm sorry to say that, but it is true. It is true. I mean, for the last 15 years, I've watched the way the government has requested and the media, the way we have to raise our children. I mean, you can't let your kids go out and play anymore. Too dangerous. You can't do this. You can't do that. So now you have a generation of kids that don't know what it's like to go out and play. They don't know what it's like to ride their bike around a neighborhood, ring doorbells and find friends and play creatively. What they do is they get on their Xbox, they play video games with their friends all day. And, a lot of you say, well, when my kids are older, I won't let them do that. Well, that's easier said than done, because when your kid is the only kid that's not playing Xbox and your kid is the only one that's not putting on those headphones every day and playing with his friends, he goes out and tries to ring someone else's doorbell. And those kids are like, what? You want me to come out and play? Go home and we'll play Xbox. That's what playing with your friends is now. So we've got this society where we've had to basically baby children for the last 10, 15, 20 years. And we've raised a bunch of children who are used to participation trophies. You wake up every day and you get a trophy just for waking up. No matter what you do, you're wonderful, you're special, you're this, you're that. And no one is being taught to be tough. No one is taught to be independent. No one is taught to get outside and run around and play with your friends and be creative. They're taught all just to sit home, be compliant, play video games, watch YouTube, and watch all the ads that come along with all those, as opposed to being an individual. So now we're seeing our government is now doing it to adults. So it's not just the children anymore. The children are no longer wrapped in bubble wrap. It's not just the children. They now want to wrap all of us in bubble wrap. They want to let you know that, well, you may want to go outside without a mask, but that might be bad for you. That might not be good for you. You might get sick and you might die. True. Okay, it's true. But I get bad news for every person that's tuning in right now. And welcome to everybody coming in. I'm kind of ranting, so I apologize. Jess, Victor, Doc Barrett, see you all. Thanks for coming in. I'm going to open up the phone lines in a second. But I just wanted to rant a little bit about this because it's really pissing me off. So they're now looking to get all the adults. They're looking to tie us down. They're looking to make us comply. They don't want any of us to be individual. They want to take away our rights. But as I was going to say, I've got bad news for everybody out there. Every single person listening in this live cast, every single person that downloads this on a podcast, and everybody else that doesn't listen to this in this country, we're all going to die. All right. I'm sorry, but from the moment you're born, your destination is to die. Our goal is to live as long as we can. But also, in my opinion, our goal is to have a fruitful life, an independent life, a life full of joy and victory and happiness, not fear, isolation, and worrying about, when you're going to catch something or die. I could have a mask on for the next 3 years. I might get hit by a car tomorrow. I might have a heart attack 2 days from now. You don't know when your number's coming up. And you can't sit back every day of your life afraid in isolation with your mask on, afraid to leave your house, afraid to go to work, afraid to see your grandparents, afraid to see your grandchildren. They are taking everything away from us during this pandemic, and it's not right. It's not right. It's not okay. And the American people, you need to start thinking for yourselves. You need to start standing up against our government, because they're taking away, with this whole cancel culture thing, they're taking away all these name brands we've grown up. They're taking down statues. They are forcing all of us to wear masks. This is about government control. It is not about our safety. It is not about our safety. It is not. And again, you listen to Dr. Fauci, he said it point blank, and no one wants to talk about it. No one wants to talk about him coming out and telling everybody at the beginning of the pandemic that masks don't do anything to prevent us from getting this disease. He said it point blank. If you put these masks on in the middle of a pandemic, it's useless. The only use is to make other people feel better. So by me putting my mask on every time I go into a store, for me putting my mask on every time I go someplace public, the only thing I'm accomplishing is I'm being polite. I'm being polite to others. I'm making people feel better. And I'm sorry, that is not what this is about. This is about health. And if the damn masks are not helping people, take the masks off, throw them in the garbage. And if the 336 million people in this country would finally stand up against our government and tell the government, fuck you, we're not going to wear a mask, then it would stop. it would stop. The problem is, out of the 336 million, we probably have about 200 million that are good little soldiers. They're good little sheep. They wear the little masks. They don't question authority, and they're going to do exactly what the government teaches them to do, just like what happened during the Holocaust. Now, I know this is kind of a rough comparison. Hundreds of millions of Jewish people killed, but you wonder how the Jewish people got to the point where the Germans were able to get them to go into the trains and literally walk themselves into the ovens. You know, when you have people that are compliant, that listen to authority without questioning authority, those type of things can happen. Are we at that point now in the United States? We are not. Could we get there someday? I mean, how do you know 15, 20, 40, 50 years down the road? Boy, if you don't get a vaccination, you're dead. You know, if you're not willing to go along with everybody else and protect everybody for the greater good, we get rid of you. You don't know where this is going to go. So at a certain point, you know, we need to stand up as an American people, because if we don't, this is going to continue on and on and on, and it's not going to end. It's not going to end. They're going to keep taking away our freedoms, keep chipping away at the things that used to be free for us. They're going to tell us over and over again, they know what's better for us than we know, and these precautions are going to continue to get more and more prevalent in our everyday life. So, you know, let's see. I see Eric Kirk saying here, I'm not really reading, guys, sorry. But Eric Kirk said, I had this thought about cancel culture over the weekend. They're canceling Snow White. That was another one. Dr. Seuss. Other pieces of history and literature. Relevant question. Why aren't efforts being made to cancel Cardi B? I had a show about this, and WAP. I don't even know how to say the damn thing, but it's true. You've got these things like Snow White is being canceled because the prince kissed her and woke her up from her spell, and he didn't get to ask her permission to kiss her. Hey, Ralph, welcome to the show. So, I mean, to me, that is absolutely crazy. So they're trying to say that Snow White was like a rapey type of situation now, where the prince didn't ask her to kiss her. Of course, she was unconscious, but he, you know, he went in and tried to basically, you know, just kiss her and whatever else. And it's just crazy to me. But we're seeing this all the time with the canceled culture. We're seeing all types of issues where they're looking to cancel everything. And now with the masks, you know, I would be as good of American if anybody else. If these masks were proven to help people, I would not mind wearing a mask. I don't want to see anybody else get sick. But when you have Dr. Fauci coming out in that interview and telling everybody that the masks do not help, then it's pretty clear that they don't help. I mean, they're not doing anything. We're wearing them to be polite. We are getting through this thing. We see states like Florida, other states in the country are getting rid of these mask mandates. It's time for the rest of the country to take suit. But again, if we keep wearing them, then as Dr. Fauci said over this weekend, you're going to be wearing these things for the next few years. Now, did you see also, in addition to his interview where he said, we're going to be wearing these masks now as seasonal flu seasons get bad, he also came out and said, you know, a variety of different things about, you know, the coronavirus and different, you know, flu strains and everything like that. So, I mean, we are literally going to see these masks being worn indefinitely now, and they're not going away. And that's why they were telling us from the very beginning that this is going to be the new normal in your life, because they knew once they got these things on you and you were going to be wearing these things for over a year, every time the flu's bad, every time, you know, like we said, you have the bird flu, you have some crazy other virus, you're going to have these masks on. This is not going away. This is going to be the new normal. They told us from the beginning it was going to be the new normal, and unfortunately, it is not going away. So I see Ralph Williams. I have masks. I don't care. Who knows? Come at me, bro. That's all right, brother. Hey, you know, and one thing I will say about wearing the masks is if you want to wear a mask for the rest of your life, wear it. I don't give a shit. It doesn't matter to me. If you feel more comfortable, if there are people right now that are afraid, they want to wear their masks, they feel like when they go into a building, if they wear a mask, it's going to make them healthy. If you have a respiratory problem and you feel like it's keeping you happy and safe, wear your mask. I don't care. It's a free country, right? But again, if I don't want to wear mine, don't make me feel like I'm a bad person. I'm a bad human being. I'm a terrible American. I don't care about other people. That's not the case. It's not the case that I don't care about other people. I just don't believe in what you believe in. I believe people should have the freedom of choice. And maybe this is because I grew up in New Hampshire. New Hampshire is kind of like little Texas, or at least it used to be until all the residents of Massachusetts started moving to New Hampshire. But New Hampshire, the state motto, live free or die. When I grew up, no seatbelt law. And I don't even know if there is one now. I haven't been up there in a while, you know, living there, but there was no seatbelt law, no motorcycle helmet law. You didn't have to have car insurance up in New Hampshire. For a gun license, it basically required you to go into the police department and fill out a piece of paper, and you walked out with a license that day. And in New Hampshire, again, people look at that and say, well, you don't have to wear a seatbelt. You don't have to wear a motorcycle helmet. I mean, the only person you're going to hurt by not wearing a motorcycle helmet is yourself. And is it stupid maybe not to wear a helmet? Maybe. I was never a motorcycle rider. But again, it should be your choice whether or not you want to strap on that seatbelt, whether or not you want to put on that helmet. You shouldn't be forced by the government to do things because they feel it's good for you. And I grew up in that type of atmosphere, and maybe that's why I'm so rebellious against, things like masks. But I can't continue to condone what's going on. Now, Ralph, you're just coming in. I'm sure you've heard this before. We get a bunch of new people in. Let me play Fauci's comments one more time. This is from the beginning of the pandemic, so it's a little bit loud. Bear with me. I have the sound turned down, but it's still loud. So here we go. Ready? It's going to be in 2 seconds.
Around with masks. You're sure of it because people are listening really closely to this. Right now, people should not be walking. There's no reason to be walking around with a mask. When you're in the middle of an outbreak, wearing a mask might make people feel a little bit better, and it might even block a droplet, but it's not providing the perfect protection that people think that it is. And often there are unintended consequences. People keep fighting.
Okay, so that's the end of it right there. A little choppy. I need a producer. But, I mean, you hear it right there. That's Fauci telling people at the beginning of the pandemic that the masks don't help. He said it point blank, and now we've been wearing these damn things for over a year. I'm sick of it. I've had it. I'm still kind of being a good little soldier where, when I'm outside, I do not wear a mask. I'm not wearing one anywhere. I don't care. I have one in my pocket. If I go into a business and I don't wear one, if someone asks me to put it on, I put it on. I'm not being an asshole about it. But I'm getting to the point where I'm just going to put the damn thing in my pocket or throw them away and just not wear them anymore. Because, again, if you don't want me in your store, if you don't want me spending my money in your store, I'll find somebody that wants me to spend, my money in their store, is what it comes down to. You're right, man. We're all going to be doing what they tell us to do. We're going to be wrapped in bubble wrap. We aren't going to be able to leave the house, and we're going to be drawing welfare, unemployment. I mean, one thing I've seen lately, and Eric, if you want to call in, if anybody else wants to call in, you're welcome to call in now. But if I drive around in my area, literally every single fast food joint in my area is trying to hire people right now. Nobody can hire anybody. I mean, it's unbelievable. Every single place is looking to hire workers. And in Massachusetts, the minimum wage is $13.50 an hour, and it's going up in 2022 to $15 an hour. So I'm looking at my son who's on the autism spectrum, 18 years old. Next year, if he works 40 hours a week, making $15 an hour, he's making $31,000 a year. That's more than I made when I got out of college. So I mean, it's pretty damn good money what they're paying, and they can't find anybody to take a job. I mean, right now, if you're a teenager and you want to work, I mean, you can just pick where you want to work right now, and you can make pretty damn good money. So it's just kind of crazy stuff. It is crazy. Now, if anybody wants to call in and join me, I'd love to have you join the show. Like I said, this is not going to be a long show today. I'm in the middle of doing a lot of stuff for work, but I wanted to, okay, who's this? We got Bam. Are you calling in? Let me hit that. See if I got you. Okay. Hey, welcome to the show. How are you? Hello, are you there?
Can you hear me?
Oh, I can hear you loud and clear. So what are your feelings on this? How do you feel about the masks and everything that's going on right now?
Well, I'm from Scotland, so it's maybe a bit different over here. But what I was going to ask is, do you guys have access to face exemption cards, face mask exemption cards?
Not really. I mean, I think that some people can go out and get like a doctor's note maybe to prevent them from having to wear a mask. But as far as a face exemption card, we don't. Explain that to us. What is it? I mean, it sounds pretty self-explanatory, but how do you get one of those?
See, over here in the UK, there's people wearing like lanyards around their neck with it's just a white little card saying I am exempt, and you just flash it as you go into a shop. So I was always of the understanding that you had to go to your doctor and get, he would have to deem you eligible for one of these cards. But I was having trouble at my workplace, where my workplace implemented us to be wearing masks all the time. And I'm a welder, so I'm working in like dirty workshops, and I was against wearing of masks anyway. So what stemmed me to get one was I was being kind of bullied by one of the foremen there that didn't really like me anyway, and every time I seemed to pull down my mask, he would be on my case, to the point where he was threatening to send me home for 2 days without pay, because that's how they discipline their workers there. They send them home for 2 days. So I went home that night, looked into these exemption cards, and realized all you need to do is go on the government website and download the card and fold it into a square and show that's all it is. So when I walked into work on the Monday morning and showed this exemption card, all hell broke loose. They didn't like it. But I've just always carried one of those around now, and I don't wear a mask anywhere I go.
Nice. So now when you go into stores or when you go into places like that, do you have a lot of people that ask you, hey, why aren't you wearing your mask? And you just pull the card out and they can't say anything? How does that work?
It's only ever happened to me once. 90% of the time when I go into a supermarket for groceries, they'll ask, would you like a mask, sir? And I'm like, no, I'm exempt. And they'll say, oh, okay, sorry. They're very polite. You do get the odd look, which I'm of the feel I would love someone to challenge me, because I've kind of got myself clued up on this stuff. Like everything you've said in today's show, I totally agree with you. So I'm kind of dying for one of those moments to happen. What really bugs me right now is when you see little 3, 4, 5-year-old kids wearing masks. That really annoys me. So like I say, I'm totally on your side with that, everything you've said today.
I appreciate it. I mean, I've had one bad experience with the mask, and this happened in Florida. I told the story a couple weeks ago, where I was in Florida, in Orlando, so it's more of like a tourist area where you get a lot of people coming down from the Northeast in America, for warmer weather in the middle of winter. So we were staying at this hotel, kind of like a hotel. It was almost like a motel hotel, where they had like a main office, and then they had rooms that were almost set up in like a motel style where the doors were on the outside. So I went to go outside to get something, and I remembered I forgot my mask. And as soon as I remembered I forgot my mask, I'd also forgotten my key. So I locked myself out of my room. I was like, oh, shit. So I had to walk down to the office to get another key so I could get into my room. So I take 3 steps in, and the desk is right there. And I've got this old woman, probably, 75, 80 years old, is standing there. Immediately, she points at me and then points at her mask. And I look at her. I said, oh, ma'am, I was polite at first. I eventually wasn't polite, but I was polite at first. And I said, oh, ma'am, I'm sorry. I just locked myself out of my room. I don't have a mask. I'm going to get another key and then go up to my room. She looked at me and she says, sure you did. At that point, I looked at her. I'm like, you know what? Why don't you mind your own fucking business and leave me alone? And the one thing I feel bad about, she was standing by herself, and I shouldn't have yelled at her. It's just I was already in a pissy mood anyway. But I remember I kind of raised my voice to her, and then her husband was on the other side of the room. I didn't see him. He was way over on the other side of the room. He didn't say anything because he probably knew his wife was a Karen and probably should have kept her mouth shut. But then I felt bad because there was a little boy sitting on a couch a little bit away from them, and that was her grandson. So the grandson, I give him credit. The grandson yelled out at me. He said, hey, don't you yell at my grandmother. So I remember I looked over, and as soon as the little boy said that, the grandfather, I heard him going, shh, be quiet. I looked at the little boy. I said, you know what, son? You're absolutely right. I apologize to you. I shouldn't have yelled at your grandmother. You're right. I'm sorry. So the little boy actually stood up, for his grandmother, but she was being an absolute bitch. So I walked up to the counter, and the girl behind the counter didn't have a mask on. She looks at me. She's like, I can't stand those type of people. I'm like, I know. I locked myself out of my room. Didn't do it on purpose. I can't get back in. So anyway, that was the one bad experience I had, and it surprised me that it actually happened in Florida. So, hey, Eric, I see you're here also. Do you want to say something regarding the topic? I see you're up there waiting patiently.
Yep. Well, I know that, like great discussions that we're having today. Yep.
Still there? There you go.
I'm still here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Go ahead.
Well, I'm just, at home, of course, today. I think probably the other story, of course, is the Colonial Pipeline having that cyber attack just the other day, and gas prices are starting to go up here in Georgia.
Of course they are.
And then and some gas stations are even running out of gas because people, I guess, are starting to panic.
No, it's true. I mean, what we're seeing right now, I'll tell you, I am afraid for this country right now We have a guy running this country that doesn't even know what his fucking middle name is. The guy is clueless. And if I was Kim Jong-un or China or Russia, Vladimir Putin, I'd be looking at this country right now going, this is the time. This is the time when we go after him, because this jackass up in the corner office doesn't know what the hell he's doing. He doesn't know what he's doing. You're right. He can't make it up the stairs. I'm waiting for him to fall down the stairs. It hasn't happened yet, but it's only a matter of time. But you're right, man. The gas prices, I mean, everything going on in this country right now is just, scary. And what I'm worried about is if you look at the economy, I mean, we're not really gaining new jobs. Small businesses are still getting buried. And what we're going to see is, I'm afraid that we're going to see a major crash in the stock market, a major crash in the housing market. I mean, we have really high prices right now in the housing market, really high prices in the stock market. And how is that being sustained? I mean, what are our companies doing to make the money right now? They're really not. And Fauci says buy Bitcoin. Hey, thanks to Cummings' culture, I took a dive into Dogecoin over the weekend. I probably bought too late, but hopefully I make some money on that. So thank you, Cummings, for throwing that my way. Of course, he bought it a lot cheaper than I did, so I'll probably lose my money. Hey, Cummings, man.
No, man. Hey, let me tell you something. You know what was happening the other night, right?
When after Elon Musk talked about the Dogecoin and it kind of tanked.
Yeah, Wells Trade and a lot of the big time stockbrokers in New York, right? They realize that this is going to cause overnight millionaires, overnight millionaires, if this thing hits $1. So what they were doing is they bought large quantities of it too, and they're willing to lose money. So what they were doing is they were selling it to tank the price of it. But what they didn't expect is people like me who own a lot of Dogecoin.
Yep.
What I was doing is when it dropped down to 48 cents, 47 cents, I started buying. So it started running the price back up, and it was like a war. It was like I don't have as much money as you do, but I was like, I got a couple grand laying around here, and I'm willing to lose a couple grand just to show Wall Street what's up.
You gave me the news that it dropped. I saw the price drop, so I dumped a couple of grand in, and I've been watching it for the last couple of days. So hopefully the Dogecoin will make me some money. If I end up losing it, I lose it. Not the end of the world. I'm not going to be out in the street, but fuck it. It's worth trying to make some money, and we'll see what happens. But I appreciate you giving me that heads up. And it was funny. I'm a dumbass. And my son will tell you I'm a dumbass, because my son Ethan told me back in January to buy Dogecoin, and I didn't listen to him. He told me like 10 times. And of course, I'm like, well, you're 14. What do you know? Shut up. And he looks at me, he goes, he should have bought it now, huh, Dad? And I'm like, all right, shut the fuck up. You're right. Yes, I
told you to buy Dogecoin back in November, but you told me you didn't get into crypto.
I don't listen. I don't listen. That's my problem. I never listen. I remember back in the tech boom where I'd made a shitload of money back in the stock market, and my wife told me like 10 times, get out, time to sell, get out. I'm like, no, I'm going to make millions. Well, everything crashed, and all the stocks I had went down to worth nothing. I lost almost all my money. So I'm a dumbass. I don't listen to people, unfortunately.
Did you buy Ford when Ford tanked this past year?
I did. Actually, we ended up buying, we don't get too much into this stuff, but I ended up buying a lake condo up in New Hampshire a few years back, because after the market tanked, I bought Ford, General Electric, and a bunch of the companies that tanked down to nothing. So I bought those, made some money, and bought a place at auction up in New Hampshire a couple years back. So I did benefit from that. But yeah, for the most part, I've been kind of stupid and I make bad decisions. My theory in buying stocks is buy high and sell low. That's what I do well.
Ford tanked to like $3 a share. And my wife was like, you're crazy. I was like, I'm about to buy 100 Ford stocks. And she was like, why? I was like, because it's going to go back up to $15-20 a share when the economy opens.
Back in the Great Recession, you were too young to do this, but back in the Great Recession of 20 years ago, whatever it was, Ford went down to $1 a share. I bought several thousand shares of Ford at $1 a share, and then I think I sold it at somewhere around $10 to $12 a share. Made decent money on that, obviously. And you're right, when you get those opportunities, I mean, for the most part, Ford, General Electric, those companies aren't going out of business. And if you get the opportunity to buy them cheap because it's going to go up, There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, they're going to short Tesla again, by the way. I think that's coming. I think they're going to short Tesla again. So when they short Tesla, I think I would be buying some Tesla. That'd
be a good one to get into also. And let me ask you, did you see the article? Because I want to ask your opinion, Jeremy. Now, Fauci is saying, I don't know if you saw it, he had an interview over the weekend, And he's saying masks are with us probably for the next several years because people are going to be wearing them during flu season now. So we all knew this. This was going to be the new normal. And I think you probably heard the interview. Let me play this one more time. I know if you guys have been in here for a bit, you've heard it a few times now. This is for Jeremy. So listen to this. This was Fauci at the beginning of the pandemic. Here we go. Ready? It's a little loud, so bear with it.
Riding around with masks. You're sure of it because people are listening really closely to this. And right now, people should not be walking. There's no reason to be walking around with a mask. When you're in the middle of an outbreak, wearing a mask might make people feel a little bit better, and it might even block a droplet, but it's not providing the perfect protection that people think that it is. And often there are unintended consequences. People keep fighting.
So there you go. I mean, there's Fauci basically telling everybody back last year before the pandemic really got going, that masks don't do anything. They don't help. They're not beneficial. None of the reports are showing that masks help. Of course, the masks, though, they did help. They eliminated the flu, but of course they did nothing to stop the coronavirus, and they passed in a very similar fashion. So now they're telling us, okay, well, for the next several years, because it cured the flu, we're probably all going to be wearing masks, for the next several years. What do you have to say about that, bud? Let it rip.
Yeah, they can get fucked. I seen a woman the other day. She was riding in the car, and she had her window down, right? And she had 2 masks on, and my wife was like, "Shut up, don't do it." And I was like, "I'm gonna do it." And we pulled right up beside her. I said, "Hey," and she looked over at me, and I go, "Why are you wearing a fucking mask when you're in your car by yourself?" And she just looked at me and she flipped me the bird, and I was like, "No." I was like, "You're the stupid one. You're in the car by yourself." And in the turning lane over, there was a police officer who had his window down. Yeah. And he was dying laughing, and I didn't know it because we pulled into the Chevron, and he got out and he looked at me. He goes, "Dude," he's like, "you have no idea how many people I see a day doing that stupid crap." He's like, "But that's the first time I've ever heard anybody call anybody out on it."
Dude, that's a fucking boss move, man. I love it. I do the same thing too. You see these people, they're riding alone in the car with their mask put on. It's like, dude, what are you doing? You're by yourself. You don't need to have the damn thing on. The problem is, as we talked about earlier in the show, this has become people's fucking identity. They identify this. This makes them special. That makes them feel like they're part of this little club. Like if you remember, you go back to college, if you went to a fraternity, you had a bunch of guys that were 4'6" in the fraternity. They all got the shit beat out of them in high school, and they go to college, they become a fraternity. And then if you mouth off to somebody at a fraternity, you've got 80 little 4'6" people coming out to beat the shit out of you. And that's what this is. You get a bunch of people that are banding together, feel like they're doing something for the greater good, when actually you're all a little fucking bunch of sheep that are wearing these face diapers because the government's telling you to do it, and they're taking away your freedom. Wake up, people. Wake up. Man, it's just crazy to me. But I've done the same thing. I've yelled at people, "Why the fuck are you wearing your mask? You're outside. Take it off."
I don't wear them. I went into Walmart. And this one dude comes into Walmart and he's got his mask on, and everybody just turn and look at him like, "Dude, what the hell is wrong with you?" And I had no idea, but a buddy of mine, I seen him in the store. He was like, "Yeah, I seen that guy." And I was like, "You did?" He was like, "Yeah." He's like, he got out of a car, and he was like, his tag said New York, and I was like, "Oh, well, that explains a lot."
Yeah, well, that's what it is up here, dude. I'm in the Northeast. I am a very rare commodity up here, and the good thing about where I live, I live in the state of Massachusetts. If you're looking at a map, I'm directly in the center of the state, so that's where I live. I'm about an hour and 20 minutes west of Boston. The whole metro Boston area, extremely liberal. And where I live anyway, it's at least kind of central to western Massachusetts, and you have more of a Republican faction of the state, but you just don't have the numbers out here to make anything happen with elections. But you have a lot more of a Republican area out where I live. But dude, when you go into Boston here, literally, when I went into a Red Sox game a couple of weeks ago, I love baseball. I can't help going to baseball games. We went in, literally every single person in the whole Fenway Park area, outdoors, Kenmore Square they call it, every single person had a mask on. I was the only person not wearing a mask. There were probably 10,000 people outside, and I was the only person outside not wearing a mask. I mean, that gives you an idea of what we're up against. Yesterday, I was driving home. I had a 2-hour ride home from Duxbury, Massachusetts. That's on the southern coast of Massachusetts. We had baseball games. So I started thinking about this last night as I was driving. On the ride home, I probably saw 20 to 30 flashing highway signs that all were saying, "Get your vaccines. get your vaccines. Get your vaccines. And it reminded me of that movie with Roddy Piper, They Live, from back in the day, where they're just conditioning people.
Bro, we're living it.
Pressuring people to get the vaccines. And again, maybe it's good for you. And I know some of my people in here were a little disappointed. I did get my first vaccine. I live with a medical professional, and she kind of convinced me to get one. I'm old and I'm fat, so it was probably a good idea for me to get one anyway. But I'm getting the second one this upcoming Thursday, and we'll see how it goes. I mean, if I'm sick, if I die, I made a poor decision. I made the decision to get the vaccine. It is what it is. Hopefully it was the right decision, because I want my life to go back to normal, and hopefully I don't end up dropping dead like some other people have. And if so, I guess my daughter will have to do the last closing episode of the show if I drop dead on Thursday. But
what did you get, Pfizer or Moderna?
I got Moderna. So I get Moderna, and I went to like a hotel is where they did it. And it was a pretty quick process. So I got my first shot. I have to go back, Thursday for my second shot. Now, what was kind of crazy is my father, I took him to get his first shot. He's 80 years old. So I took him. He got, I think he also got Moderna, but his was done in New Hampshire. We went to an empty store in a mall, like an old Macy's that shut down or whatever the hell it was. And dude, this was kind of crazy. It was nothing but military personnel in this. And when we walked in, there were at least like 100 military personnel, all in their full friggin' fatigues. And they were the ones giving out the shots. So it was kind of like, holy shit, look at this place. In Mass, it was just like regular, people giving the shots, like firefighters, things like that. Not New Hampshire, man. They had the fucking military out giving the shot. Kind of freaked out a little bit. So I've heard that the first shot doesn't really have any serious symptoms. The second one's the kicker. So we'll see how it goes for me, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And even if I'm feeling like shit, I might get on Friday and just do a podcast to let you all know that, fuck, I shouldn't have taken this. I screwed up, but I don't know. So now you're one. You said you're not going to get the shot. How about the other guys I have on here? Eric, Baa, are you guys getting the shot or no?
I'm not planning on it.
No.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens. I mean, even if a vast majority of the population does not get the shot, again, we've got to get past this. If adults are making the decision, I don't want to wear a mask, I don't want to get the shot. Again, I know you're from Scotland, but again, in America, free country, you have the choice to do what you want to do. You can't have the government force you into wearing a mask. You can't have the government force you into getting a vaccination, especially a vaccination that's been proven not, potentially it could not be safe. So, I mean, the government can't do it. And again, we still live in a free country, even though Joe Biden, Nancy Pelosi, and those groups don't want to make you feel like we live in a free country, but we do. And we have freedom of choice. So if you're out there and you want to wear a mask for the next 20 years, wear a fucking mask. Knock yourself out. I don't care. But if you don't want to wear a mask, mind your own fucking business and don't tell me I have to wear one. Go ahead, guys.
Can I ask you, John, why you felt that you needed to get the vaccine?
Well, I don't. I think part of it is I live with a doctor. My wife's a doctor, and she talks about the vaccines quite a bit. And I was very much on the fence. She got her vaccine, and I saw her get it. She didn't have any side effects at all. Even with the second shot, she wasn't sick. And I had some other friends that also got it. And I felt, I got to say, I think probably the final piece of the puzzle that made me feel a little bit more comfortable is when Donald Trump came out and said that he felt that the shot was safe. When I'm listening to Joe Biden, I don't trust him because I think he stole the election and stole our country. But for me, when I listen to my wife and I listen to, certain people, I felt that, I do get the flu shot on a yearly basis. And I figured I would go with it. And, honestly, though, if I'm Cummings, I don't know how old you are, Baa, but if I'm 28 years old, I'm probably not getting the shot. I'm 53 years old. I'm overweight. And again, we had a police officer in my town who was in his 50s that died from COVID. So that kind of freaked me out a little bit. So I figured that for me, getting the vaccine would hopefully be the lesser of two evils. Whether it is, we'll find out once I get that second shot. But that's why I felt I should get it. Yeah. What do you think about my choice? Did I make the wrong choice?
Well, I don't want to scare you or anything like that, but I'm into, I've been looking into it and stuff, but again, my great granny got it, my grandparents, my uncles, they all got it, and they're older, obviously, so I totally understand from that point of view. I'm not anti-vax completely, but they're, like you said, if you're 20-year-old and you're healthy and you're facing a virus that's got a 99 point fill in the blank survival rate, then why would you take something that's full of adjuvants and all that stuff? I just don't get it. So I respect everyone's opinion, and that's it. Yeah,
It's funny. I laughed out loud during you talking because I saw Mr. A in the chat. He said that the only woman that'll lie next to him in bed, he gave him an ultimatum. That's why he had to get it. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
yeah. I work with a guy, and he said that to me this week, that if he didn't get it, his wife was saying, "You got to pack your bags."
Yeah, I think that's pretty much what happened here. So yeah, Mr. A, I think you're on target with that comment. So
Yeah.
and I guess my wife probably figured if it kills me, then we have an insurance policy also, so hopefully it'll get paid off, right? So either way, she wins. Oh man. So Eric, what's going on with you? You've been kind of quiet today. How was your weekend? What's going on?
My weekend was pretty good. I was on the fence about going to a house tomorrow to help out my landlord and a handyman of his, like, you know, because I think they got a cement truck coming to pour concrete, but I don't even know whether I'm going to be able to make that tomorrow, because I think with the gas price dilemma, like it is in gas stations, like running out of gas like they're doing, my biggest concern is, like, being able to conserve like gas in my car until, the gas supply situation can get back to normal.
Right. So is it that bad in Georgia? Because right now I'm not seeing that.
Last night I went to a friend's house about 20 minutes away from me, and I went to search for a gas station. I pulled into 2 gas stations. I noticed they already had like the bags over the gas pumps at one station, and I went to a racetrack station, walked in to find out they were out, and then I had to run down the road to a Quick Trip station. But luckily I found they had some gas, but they're now charging like $2.89 a gallon for regular unleaded last I checked.
Yeah, we're getting, depending on where you go up here, I've seen as high as $3 a gallon up here. What did I get last night? I think on the way home from baseball, I had to stop. I think I got like $2 a gallon, but I haven't seen all the pumps empty. That's pretty scary because we haven't seen that up here yet. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I am old enough to remember very, very barely, but I was alive. I was very young in the 1970s, but I remember the gas shortage in the 70s, barely. I remember being in the car with my parents, and you'd have to wait in line. If a gas station had gas, you'd have to wait in line, and there may be 50 cars in front of you waiting to get gas. It was that little gas, that much problem. And I think, if I remember correctly, that may have been under Jimmy Carter, who was the president at that time.
Yeah.
Who was given recently a Nobel Prize for being a great guy, but I can say that I remember him being the absolute worst president in American history. I'm surprised he didn't make that list I read off a couple of weeks ago, but he was a shitty president. He's been a good guy after being president, but he was terrible in office. And I'm afraid that we still have 3.5 years left of Joe Biden. We're only 5 months into this mess. I mean, who knows where we're going to be if this senile jackass remains in office for the next, even 2 years. I don't know if that's the case, but I'm not sure Kamala Harris is going to be any better.
They're so upset, dude. They're so upset with these audits. Dude, they are so. You're bordering state up there in New Hampshire, right?
What? That town's very close to my parents' town, Windham, New Hampshire. I know it well.
Yep. They're getting ready to start a forensic audit into their election to see if something was up.
I'll tell you what Windham is. Windham is probably the richest town in New Hampshire. Very wealthy town, big mansions, beautiful homes. Probably about 45 miles from Boston, so you can live in this town and transport into Boston for work if you want to. And it's a predominantly Republican town. So I'm sure that there's plenty of money to bring in the audit in this town and do what they need to do. And you're right, in Arizona, man, have you seen all the news stories? Everything is being done to discredit what they're doing. This is a witch hunt. It's crazy. Donald Trump is nuts. It's amazing to me what the Democrats are willing to do to prevent even a recount because they don't want people to know.
It's not a recount.
I don't know.
It's not a recount. It's a forensic audit. They're like, how they told us that, how they said that, ballots are fine and all this shit. Yeah, there's watermarks on the ballots that, when Trump said that there was watermarks on the ballots, everybody said, he's buying into the QAnon conspiracy.
Right.
No, it was true. There are watermarks on the ballots. That's why they're putting them under the black light out in Arizona right now.
Yep. And I mean, I see nothing wrong with if the Democratic Party had nothing to hide, if they did not cheat in this election, then be transparent. Be transparent. Because again, I don't care if you're in this country, even if you're a Democrat, I mean, okay, there were concerns that Trump cheated. There were concerns now that Biden cheated. Damn it, if we're going to have a free country, and if our votes are going to mean anything, we, the American people, need to know if cheating has been happening. Who knows? Maybe cheating's been happening for the last 30 years and we just didn't realize it. You know, and we haven't been woke.
And the question of election integrity and honesty in our elections is paramount, but like those who I guess engaged in the cheating and we know cheating has happened on both sides, but it's like they're getting their britches in a wad, like because I think they just don't like being exposed.
Right. No, it's true. I mean, I think.
And Jess makes a great point.
Doug just said it. Maybe cheating has been happening for the last 200 years. So if you're coming to the show, we get quite a few people in the live right now. If you're a Democrat, if you're a Republican, if you're an independent, all of us need to know: has there been cheating? Has there been cheating? Did Trump cheat 8 years ago? Did Biden cheat this time around? Did Obama cheat? Did Reagan cheat? Did Clinton cheat? If we have had a society where people have been cheating in the election for all these years, then damn it, we need to know. Because again, we've been sold a bill of goods in this country where we are not really living in a free country. And I gotta ask, Baa, we got you on the show right now. You're from Scotland. What do people in Europe, I mean, I know you can't speak for anybody, but you're in Scotland. What do people in Scotland think right now about what happened with Trump? Do they feel that Joe Biden is legitimate? Do people talk about it all in Scotland? I'm kind of wondering what the world thinks about what's happening right now here.
Well, with Trump's presidency, our mainstream, the BBC, were all the same as like CNN, like hate Trump, the bad man. But in my day-to-day life, I came across people who were like, Trump's actually right, and he's not all that bad. And I was of the same opinion. I love Trump. I bought into all this. I was never into the QAnon stuff, but I did believe that Trump was like saving us from Hillary Clinton and all this stuff. And then I watched this documentary called Follow Cabal and was fully on board with Trump. But now I'm of the belief that all presidents are selected, not elected. Like you're saying about cheating and voting, and every president that America's had has been, under the like he's controlled, and Trump's no different.
I agree with you, though. I've been saying that for years. If you hold on one second, Eric. If you even look at the way the presidents are chosen every year, you're given your handful of choices on either side. And then if you look at even what happened with Biden, I mean, they basically forced everybody else out. I mean, they forced everybody out and they kind of hand delivered it to Biden. This is your choice. So here is your one choice here. Here is your one choice there. So you're given two choices. Both of them are handpicked choices from either side. So you're right. We are given I guess a choice, but then they're manipulating the elections anyway, so they get in exactly who they want to get in. And you're right. I don't think we, maybe the American people have been dealing with this forever, and we're too stupid to realize it. But we're not free. We're not free. We are being held down by a tyrannical regime, whether it's the wealthy, whether it's the politicians. I mean, again, you got these people on the left, these Pelosi's, these AOC's, these idiots on the left who are communists. They're socialists, and they are beating us down to the ground. Now, over and over again, and this is one thing I wasn't planning on talking about today, but everyone said Trump was a racist. Where was he a racist? Back in the 80s and 90s, when no one would give African Americans a loan, Trump was the one that was giving them loans. Trump was giving out money. I've never heard Trump say anything derogatory about an African American in this country. Of course, though, you've heard Joe Biden talking about, in the 1970s, we don't want to create a racial jungle. He's friends with, the guy that ran the what do you call it? The KKK. I mean, Joe Biden has made numerous racist comments over the course of his career. However, you got to figure, is it a big surprise to anybody? The Democratic Party is a party of racism. It always has been. They were against getting rid of slavery. You got to look at the Jim Crow laws. You look at today, slavery 2021. We've talked about it many times here. It's welfare. It's food stamps. It's Section 8. Let's keep the people down in the inner cities. And it's not just African Americans. It's Hispanic. It's poor white Americans. Keep them down. Give them money. Don't put them out to work. And if they're home and they're reliant on the government to pay the bills and to feed their children, they have to vote Democrat. It is communism. It is socialism. And unfortunately, the people in the inner cities that are trapped in this horrible merry-go-round of poverty, they are trapped in this situation where they can't get out of it. And again, if you want to talk about racism, well, I mean, what's racism? Trump brought back jobs to the inner cities. He started bringing automobile jobs back, manufacturing jobs back. And these were good middle-class paying jobs where people could get out of poverty and get a good job for their family. So maybe if you're not ready to go to college, maybe your kids could go to college, maybe your grandkids. That's what happened to my family. My grandparents were factory workers. They came over from Italy. My father worked 9 years night school to go to college to finally get a decent job and gave me my opportunity to go to college after high school. So again, the Democrats are taking this away from the people who are in the inner cities, and no one talks about it. And all we heard was Trump's a racist. Trump's a racist. Where's the proof? There's proof everywhere that Joe Biden is a racist. There's proof everywhere that the Democratic Party is a racist. So go ahead. I'm ranting, but go ahead. I'm sorry. I'm going to pass out from not breathing. Go.
Yeah, I think that's a great point right there. Like people who are making these allegations of Trump being this and that. What I think they have to realize is the burden of proof is on them. It's just like if you were in in a courtroom setting, you have the plaintiff, you have the defendant. The plaintiff being the accuser, the proof is on them, and the defendant being the accused has a right to defend themselves and stare down their accusers in court. And I think this discussion got me to thinking about another podcast friend, Jane Shady. I haven't seen her on in a while. And one point I've heard her make on other podcast shows is that basically the elections are basically an experiment done on the masses to retool them and reprogram them. But I mean, if she was to get wind of this, I think I'm sure you'd probably love to have her on and hear the way she thinks.
Oh yeah, I would love to. I would absolutely love to. I got to make before I forget. I want to reply to Torch's comment also, where he feels that both sides work together. Of course they do. I mean, you're right, without a doubt. And if that doesn't make if that doesn't make sense to the people that are in here, look at Mitch McConnell. Mitch McConnell did everything he could to destroy Trump. Now that Trump's out of the picture, now he's pledging against Joe Biden and Nancy Pelosi and all these different people that he doesn't agree with. Well, you know what? You basically hand-delivered them the election. You gave it to them. You ran Trump into the ground along with that jackass out in Utah, Mitt Romney, who used to be the governor of Massachusetts, and now they're booing him off stage, and he's been censored. There's no doubt. They work together. They've got their little club. The left and the right are part of an exclusive club, and as George Carlin used to say, that group, you ain't part of it. You aren't, I'm not. None of the people in this room are part of that group. It's an exclusive group, and unfortunately, none of us belong. None of us are members. Go ahead, Eric.
I think the thing is, the one thing that those Republicans and Democrats have in common, they're basically each other's golfing buddies, and they're not there to serve we the people. They're only there to line their pockets, because you wonder why they go in as nobodies and they come out so filthy rich. It's like they jump into a pile of shit and they come out smelling like roses.
We know what I wish Donald Trump had chosen me to be like his right-hand man, because what Donald Trump needed when he was president is when he started tweeting, he needed someone like me to grab his fucking phone and say, "Hey, dumbass, fucking stop it. Put the fucking phone down." Or when he was about to say something stupid, he needed to have someone elbow in the stomach. "Donald, shut the fuck up. Stop saying stupid things." Because he said so many stupid things that he gave the Democrats a lot of things to throw at him. And if Donald Trump could have just shut his fucking mouth a little bit, instead of making fun of a guy and doing things like that, he probably would have had more people in this country that liked him. But I mean, aside from that, to me, he was a very good president. And I wish we had him back, because this new guy right now in charge is a clown.
Well, have you ever heard about what the Rothschilds do, John?
Still there? What do you got?
Oh, that was Jeremy. He mentioned something about the Rothschilds.
Matrix. All right. So, Jeremy, you guys have anything you want to add? I mean, Cummings, you're still sitting there. You got anything you want to throw? You're quietly sitting back. Feel free to step in.
You ever heard about what the Rothschilds do?
I have not. Educate us.
They have a table in their home in England, And all around their table, they have a place set for all of them, and they leave one empty chair. You know who the empty chair is there for?
Who?
Satan.
Is it really?
Yeah. Yep.
Now, let me ask you that. Do you think, again, we had a show the other day, we were talking about faith and all that stuff. Is the evil our government? I mean, is that why we have countries, the Muslim religion are coming over here looking to blow us up? Are we the evil? Is the American government the evil in this world? I mean, I'm not America, but the American government. Is it the evil in this world?
Do you want me to explain it to you?
Yeah, go for it. I'd love to hear it.
Okay, what goes on is that there's different levels. How they get you sucked in is like everybody knows somebody that's a Freemason, right?
Yep, I do.
And the Masons do. The Masons do phenomenal things, right? They a lot of them are good, wholesome people, and it looks great on the outside. But once they get up to that 33rd degree, if you look into what they have to do, it's a little bit satanic. Well, that's really not much. That's not really not much. But as you go up the ladder, the chain of command, you got to look at who owns the banks. Who owns the banks? Because the banks fund both sides of wars. And if you look at who owns both sides, if you look at who owns the banks, well, it's one family. They own the banks. And why do they fund both sides of the war? Because they get rich off from it. They get the richer, the more you fight, the richer they get. And they have an agenda. And what happens is people get so sucked into the D and the R when the D and the R is owned by the same man.
Yep.
And they're at the top. They're trillionaires. Like they own 90% of the world. And what happens is your Social Security number. I know people have finally figured it out. John, I'm pretty sure.
George mentioned it in chat.
I'm pretty sure your kids have seen this. But did you know that on your Social Security number, it has your Social Security number is actually a banking number? It's actually a routing number.
I did not know that, so give it to me. I wasn't aware of that. Give it to me.
Yeah, you have a secret account. And this is true. They try to cover it up and say it's fake, but it's not. Ron Paul exposed this 15 years ago. You have a secret account in your name at a Federal Reserve, like the different Federal Reserve bank locations around the country. You have an account, and that's your Social Security number. And what they do is, like, you have these millions of dollars, so you're in debt millions of dollars to who? There's nothing federal about the Federal Reserve. You're in debt to a family. Well, then that family takes it and they say, oh, we'll sell it to China. China, guess what? Guess what China has? Has a World Bank.
Yep.
Why do you think we fight with North Korea and Iran? You know why we fight with them so much? Last two countries on earth that do not have a World Bank.
There you go.
That's why we fight with them so much. It's got nothing, absolutely. In Iran, they say, oh, it's because of the oil. Yeah, they want control of the oil, but they want control of the money more than they want control of the oil, because if you control the money, then you control the people. And
amen. You're right.
That's what they're doing, and I'm telling you, there's evil. The real evil out there, the real evil out there is not each other. Like, at the end of the day, you can make yourself evil, but we're all God's creation. We all descended from the same two people. That's science, and it's biblical too. Everybody knows that. Now, you can say, oh, it's scientific. It doesn't matter. If you want to look at it from the scientific standpoint or the biblical standpoint, it all lines up. We all descended from two people. And what they're doing is they're getting you to forget that by putting a D and an R beside your name, labeling you.
Yep.
Then they're looking at the Constitution. Who funded the war from Britain? Who funded the war from Britain? Well, they didn't want this to become a country. They didn't want this to become the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Nope.
They hated this. They always hated this. Ronald Reagan, when he talked about the shining city on the hill, he was talking about the illumination from it. What do you think that meant? But I'm telling you, there's one family that controls all the money. They control it all. And they have a house in England. This is no shit. Like, I'm not pulling your leg. I'm not lying to you. This is legitimate. There's, I think it's like 20 people have come out and, gave evidence of this. There's a family that controls all the money, and they have tables. a table, their dining room table, and they have chairs all the way around it, and they have a chair for all themselves, and at the head of the table, they leave that chair empty. That's the chair for Satan.
You know, and people can sit back and they can say that they don't believe in these type of things. That's fine. But when you tie things like this in, along with things like what happened in America with Epstein, with all the sex trafficking of children, of all the Hollywood people that have been accused of sex trafficking children. They had a fucking island where Bill Gates, where Bill Gates, Bill Clinton, all these rich and powerful people went to this island over and over and over again. Movie stars, directors, actors, famous people, royalty from England. They were all on this island.
Heads of state.
Basically, I'm sorry for being rude, but they were fucking little girls. And I say that for a reason, because when you say, molesting, when you say different words, it kind of dumbs it down a little bit. But these powerful men like Bill Clinton, who was 50, 60, 70 years old at the time, he went to that island for the sole purpose of fucking 14-year-old girls. And that's what he did. So when you look at the evil that is across this world, you look at the powerful people and what they're doing with children and trafficking children and having sex with children, and then you look at families like this who are the most wealthy, powerful family in the world who are doing things like this. I don't think it's that far-fetched, because everything we see is telling us to the contrary. Now, this is my church. When you look at the Catholic Church, I mean, I don't know if you guys watched that movie. What the hell was the name of the movie about the Catholic Church? Was it Spotlight? It was filmed about the Boston Globe newspaper when they found out. They were the ones that uncovered in the Boston area all the molestation that was going on in the Boston church. And if you read at the end of that movie, they were talking about literally across the world, they estimated that hundreds of thousands of children have been molested by people who were in the Catholic Church. Now, this was my church. I grew up Catholic. I'm technically still Catholic. But when you see churches, when you see politicians, when you see actors, when you see wealthy, royalty, and all these people are doing this. I mean, we got Maxwell right now in prison. Where are the words she's speaking? I'm sure she's telling people, trying to strike a deal for herself so she doesn't spend the rest of her life in prison. Where are some of the names of the people, that she's talking about that were on that island? She was the one that was setting up the girls. She knows what men were in their fucking little girls. She knows who was there. So how come we don't know as the American public? This is what I'm talking about, like the vast evil that Cummings is talking about that's on a worldwide scale in some places. And it's just crazy that, you're right. We're being divided. We're over here. Hey, all white people are racist. All black people are racist. We're going to cancel Aunt Jemima. We're going to cancel Dr. Seuss. Snow White was kissed against her consent. You're a Democrat. You're a Republican. You're gay. You're not gay. We're fighting over all this shit. And at the same time, these people are laughing at us because they've successfully divided and conquered us, and we're not coming together as a people. Until we do that, we're beat. We're done. We've lost. And I don't know if we can fix it. Go ahead.
Another thing I have, even heard another podcast friend say, and I think this was Dark Bear that brought this up on his show, that the so-called woke culture, basically all they're essentially doing is this like virtue signaling. How we call the Coca-Cola company Woca-Cola because of their whole controversial Be Less White campaign. Are we going to start calling the Walt Disney Company Woke Disney because they're canceling Snow White because the prince kissed her to wake her up and break the evil witch's spell?
Let me clarify that also, because for me, Coca-Cola,
because I think Walt Disney would be rolled over in his grave right about now too.
But again, we have to keep the eye on the ball though here in America. Racism is wrong. If you are a racist white person and you're using the N-word and you're horrible to people of different backgrounds, you're a racist and it shouldn't happen. If you're a black American and you're calling people cracker and you're out to destroy white people, you're a racist. If you're a Hispanic, if you're anything, if you're a heterosexual man and you're using the fag word, the F word as I say it, you got something wrong with you. In this country, we need to come together as a people. All racism is wrong. However, when you have a company like Coca-Cola coming out and attacking white people, I mean, I posted those slides. Be less white, be less ignorant, be this, be that. That is the definition of racism. Could you imagine if Coca-Cola had come out and told people, all right, you got to be less black, be less black, be less this. Don't be as good at basketball and football because white people suck at basketball. But if they came out and said all these different things, then, I mean, imagine how that would have gone. But what they did, against white people was the epitome of racism. And honestly, Coke can go screw. I'll never buy a Coca-Cola product again. But in fairness, if they had done the same thing about Hispanic people, black people, Asian people, I would have had the same mindset. I would have been like, fuck you. I'm not buying anything from your company. You're a company full of racists. And I think as people, and I mean, that's the one thing that I do like about the Black Lives Matter cause. I think Black Lives Matter was hijacked by extremists, but the concept of Black Lives Matter is a good concept. It's a good concept where we need to realize that literally Black Lives Matter, White Lives Matter, Asian Lives Matter, police officers do matter. I mean, people in this world do matter, and it's a good concept, but we're so busy fucking fighting with each other, we're too blind to see that we all want the same thing. You know, for me, I'm this white guy out in suburbia. You know, I get a nice house, and you know, there aren't a ton of people of color in the towns I live in. My son is very good friends with a Hispanic kid, a couple of African-American kids, and there are very few in his grade. They're some of his best friends. And, you know, for me, I want the same thing for every black family, for every Hispanic family. I want you to be able to go to school, your kids, get a good education. I want you to have the opportunity to go to college if that's what they want to do. If they want to go out and get a good job, do that. I want them to be able to have the opportunity to have a nice house in a nice town and be able to afford things for your family. That should be the right of every human being in this country, regardless of sexuality, regardless of color, regardless of race. And if we're playing each other against each other all the time, then it's unfortunate. We need to come together to make sure that every American has the opportunity to have a good life. Now, when I say every American, I don't mean every illegal American. I mean the people that are here in this country legally. And again, you can argue all day about illegal immigrants and the 25,000 children that Joe Biden has down on the border right now that are probably being sex trafficked and abused on a daily basis when they're talking about other things. Neither one of them have still been down there to visit the situation to see what's going on. But I mean, again, if we have a problem with immigration in this country, okay, we'll fix it. You know, right now, if you've got 1 million illegal immigrants in this country, let's have a mass induction. Let's get the criminals out. And if there are 600,000 good people out of that group, then make them American citizens. Get them in the country. Stop making them sit in the country for 20 years. You know, wait till you become citizens. So I know I'm all over the place today, but this whole thing with the mask just pissed me off, and that opens up a can of worms. And I start ranting about things left and right, you know, so I don't know.
You were talking about the Catholicism, though?
Yes.
Did you know that you have a white pope and a black pope?
Well, black pope. I know we have the white guy. I didn't know we had a black pope. Tell me about that.
You have two popes. You have the pope who is the figurehead, that he's always dressed in white, right? Look this up. I'm not shitting you.
All right, I'm going to look it up right now. Talk. Go ahead. I'm going to look.
And then you have the pope who is the pope of the Jesuit order. And you have a white pope and you have a black pope. It's a real thing.
Let's see. Oh, I see black pope Jesuit. So I'm kind of looking here. Oh, look at this. The Superior General of the Society of Jesus is the official title of the leader of the Society of Jesus, the Roman Catholic religious order, which is also known as the Jesuits. He is generally addressed as the Father General. So that's, yeah. Wow. Did not know that.
Yeah.
How come we don't see him? How come we never see the, I guess, quote unquote, black pope? Why don't we see the black pope?
Because they're like the CIA of the Catholic Church.
Wow. See, there's so much we don't know. We got to have more shows about like conspiracy theories and some of the other shit that's happened in this world. Just exposing some of this stuff, you know?
Well, Dennis Lee has Tall Tales in the Rabbit Hole, and I think Baa Ewe would talk about this on his Penny for Your Thoughts podcast. You know, he does with Steve from the Just Another Day in Paradise podcast, and I would imagine Jeremy would probably touch on it on his show, and I think David would touch about it on Mysteries of the Paranormal.
Yeah, man, a lot of good shows. I do like Tall Tales of the Rabbit Hole. I don't get to get into that too often because it's late and I'm usually sleeping because I'm an old bastard. But it is a good show when I get the opportunity to pop in there and listen. If I can't sleep or whatever, I pop that show on. But listen, I didn't realize I've been on for an hour and a half, so I got to get my ass back to work. But so you guys, you've been on for quite a while. Do you guys have anything you want to say before you get off? Why don't we start with Baa first, let you go.
I think he looks like he dropped off the call.
I still see his picture up here. So is he gone? On my screen, I still see him.
He said his battery was running low.
Okay, so it's still up there, but he must have dropped off. So, Cummings, why don't you kind of close up what you want to say? Because, again, what are your feelings about the masks, basically, them telling us that we may be wearing these for years now to stop the flu? I mean, how do you feel about that? What can we do to stop it?
It's nothing you can do to stop it.
Stop wearing it.
It's their narrative. They're going to continue to push it.
Thanks for the 5 points, everyone. Sorry, go ahead.
It's just like how CNN was... Project Veritas caught them on private camera talking about how they were going to start fear mongering with global warming. It's just one of those things that you're not going to stop them from doing it. You're not going to stop them from trying to push that narrative. But what you have to do is you have to push back.
Right. We have to push back. We have to push back. I think that's very important. You're right, Jeremy. We have to push back as people. And like I said to my wife, the one trade-off that I'm giving to my wife is I get my second shot on Thursday. Thursday will be the last day I wear a mask. I'm going into stores. I may be the only person in there not wearing a mask, but I'm going to tell people I've been vaccinated. I'm done. I'm not wearing a mask anymore. And if you want me to leave, I'll leave. I'm not going to fight about it. I'll just take my big pile of cash and spend it with someone that does want it. So, basically that's it. But I'm done. I'm not wearing one anymore. I'm going to be fully vaccinated. I'm done. And I'm not doing it to be polite anymore. I'm done with that. So, Eric, what do you got? Why don't you run out, if you have a final thought, and run off the shows. It's bad boy.
I think like a couple other things I didn't really get time to touch on, like I meant to, but like we get that Trump is an unfiltered person, but in certain instances, there are times that you have to kind of filter yourself because I think people are better off not hearing too much information all at once, because if you understand like the concept of like dropping breadcrumbs, and I know Jeremy would talk about this oftentimes on his shows about like Kennedy. He had aspirations to shut down the Federal Reserve Bank because I think Kennedy had recognized how satanic of an organization it was. But then I think certain like deep state mafia figures back then got wind of it and felt like they had to get rid of him.
Yeah.
But otherwise, we look forward to doing these shows again very soon, John. But be into our podcast friends, hopefully Torch will be doing his show later on this evening in prime time.
I can get my ass back into that show. I haven't been in a little bit. I got to get back in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
And be on the lookout for Cummings' Culture to go live at 7 p.m. Eastern time, and the Slightly Serious Show at 9:30 p.m. Eastern. The Chit Chat with the Old Man tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern. Hopefully Dina Joe will be back. And also be on the lookout for Ralph. I think he's on right now along with Milk Dog. And,
was he on now? Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah. And also be on the lookout for Freedom Warrior to do his Freedom Fighter podcast. And then tomorrow, Wednesday, and Thursday, you got Donald Wayne and Dennis Lee doing Trice Talk. But I think the Tall Tales and Rabbit Hole's kind of taken hiatus, briefly.
Hey, let me ask a quick question for anybody that's still in here before you all leave. I know that I was in the Milk Dog show the other day, and he didn't sound good. How is he doing health wise? I've been in a few times the last few days. It seems like he's.
I hadn't been in his show lately. I don't know if Mike or Torch down in the chat would be able to fill us in if they've been in his show.
He seemed like he was struggling the day I was in there. It made me feel bad. He's a good guy, and I get to pop in there again maybe today sometime. But it sounds like he's kind of struggling. Yeah, to see how he's doing. So
yeah,
go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I was just wanting to ask if anybody knew how. Go ahead.
And I think Dennis Lee said on Trice Talk last night that he is like rethinking like his time slots. But I gave him the suggestion like if he's where he could do shows to try not to go opposite Slightly Serious like he's been doing like 3 days a week. Because to me, I know like the Old Man and your show and Cummings and Slightly are among like the many Hallmark shows that we really don't want too many shows having to like go completely opposite those.
You have to make a choice. I try to avoid other shows. If I know someone else is on, I'll try not to schedule a show there unless I absolutely have to. If it's like an interview or something, well, that's when the person has to do it. But yeah, it'd be better if they didn't do it. Then you can go into the other show once you're done at Slightly show. So good point.
Right. Yeah. And I think later in the week you've got Frankie D's Crib, and then over on YouTube you've got Roxanne's Odyssey of Ascension and Crax's Exotics Radio podcast.
I miss Roxanne.
Well, you should have her email address if you want to reach out to her and say and talk to her and see if maybe she might be interested in coming back.
I went into one of her shows once, and I did watch on YouTube, and she's good. She's great. I do miss her. Very
and then
person.
Of course, Mysteries of the Paranormal and Chris Unplugged and the Turfy Show and Lyrical Laxatives and the It's Doomsday podcast over the weekends.
All right.
And the Beans and Weenies comedy show on Sundays. And don't forget Chuck and Billy's Night Cup of Tea comedy show.
Oh, what was the show I was in the other day? Damn it. I wish I had written down. It was a new show. It was, some girl. I can't remember the name of it. She was an African-American girl. She was on, I think.
I know there's a lady named Di.
Her show was really good. I was in there for about an hour. It was only like 3 of us were in there. And I told her to kind of reach out to me. I told her I'd interview her. Her show was really, really good. I wish I could remember her name. I can't remember it. Damn it. I thought I meant to write it down and I forgot. Let me see if I screenshot it really quickly to see if I can find it before I get off here. I think maybe I did screenshot it. Did I? I did not. Damn it. I didn't write it down. So, oh well. If I see it again, I'll remind you of that show. It was a really good show. So,
and Lingo Longo could even fire up shows at impromptu times. I love his singing.
He's very good, very talented. So, all right, man. Well, listen, everybody, great show. Had a ton of people coming in. Baa, thank you very much for coming in. I know you're gone. Cummings came in and talked as well. Eric, as always, my right-hand man, thank you for being in here. And for all of you that came in, I love you all. Please keep coming back. Tell some friends. And I'll probably be back on, I'm going to try every day this week. Well, I don't know if I won't be able to do it Thursday. I'm getting my shot. And then I'll probably be half dead on Friday. But I may come on even if I'm half dead on Friday to do my show. So we'll see how it goes.
Love you. God bless you, everybody. See you on Podbean. And see
love you all. Take care now.
Here on the John DeVito Show.
Bye-bye now. And remember, take those fucking masks off. All right, goodbye.